Are you gonna give me orders?
The easiest side as we are about to go in game. This Trap versus soO matchup about ready to begin. Kick off the day with some PvZ. Gonna be good, gonna be fun. Very ready for it as we start off in the bottom right hand side of Nightshade with the red Protoss player. This is Trap.
And of course, that means that on the top left side of Nightshade, if we look in the main base of our Korean Zerg player, it is soO. Intel Extreme Masters Katowice champion of 2019. That's definitely the highlight of his career. I don't know, I already asked you before the show started. I was like, what do you predict? And you went with soO on this one. I actually went with Trap, but I do think this is just a difficult series to predict, right?
No, absolutely. It's almost like which of these players shows up on the day. Absolutely both of them players who can reach the highest of highs. You know, Trap back-to-back GSL finals. You know, there was also moments yesterday in the GSL qualifiers when I was like, is Trap actually even going to make it? He got like 0-4 in the first round of the groups yesterday, and I was like, Trap? Like, hello? This is GSL. This isn't just some online cup. So yeah, Trap can absolutely do amazingly well, but of course, I think it's worth saying as well, his weakest matchup has been PvZ, and typically when he has to like hold off mid-game pressure, and that's the one thing that soO really excels at.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, I picked soO for this series, but I'm totally with you. It really can be one of those ones where it's like, if Trap wins, I'm not like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. It's completely expected as well in a way.
Yeah, I think you make some very valid points there, especially on this map as well, where I think a couple of the maps are pretty good for soO, his playstyle, right? This is not the biggest map I think we've ever had. Now, if it really goes the distance and we get some of the weirder maps, I do believe that any game where Trap can basically get up to Storm and not be behind, I think he's going to win. Like, I generally have a lot of confidence in his Immortal arc on the army at that point, and his control most of the time is on point there. But can he actually get there? Because we are probably going to see a couple of scenarios where soO will be attacking him with like 95 or 100 army supply, and then Trap is going to have like 46, 48, something like that, right? And that's where you need to pull off those magical holds. Interesting to mention is that in this game, soO is obviously be forced to expand towards the top because this probe made it to the other side of the map very quickly. This often triggers Zerg players to go for some all-in. Now, I don't think this necessarily will be a super early all-in because Trap is doing a good job in keeping his probe around. But we've seen like Zergs like Lambo, Elaser a couple of times on this map just make a whole bunch of queens and then march those queens to the other side of the map with roaches and ravages. And if you talk to me about a strategy like that and you talk to me about soO, I'd be like, yeah, I can see it. I can get on board that he would be a fan of a strategy like that.
Yeah, no, I can totally get on board with that one too. Like I say, soO is, you know, soO on Hive Tech is just a worse player than soO on Lair Tech. And sometimes a soO that doesn't even get to Lair Tech is the best soO in the world. So he is absolutely one of these players who just, the earlier I feel he plays, the better he is. But yeah, I can see it. I think this matchup in general has been so aggressively focused recently too. Even if this doesn't initially go with aggression, right? We've seen so many follow-ups which are like, oh, you know, you made some adepts and you killed half my drone line. Well, it's cool because I've got a ton of roaches and ravages and I'm going to counterattack you. And we see these kind of back and forth. Just, you know, one guy gets super aggressive, then the counter all ins, and the process is like, oh no, I lost my entire third base, but I'll just counter all in you because you lost your roaches. It's really been that kind of back and forth meta lately, and we're kind of set up for it with Trap going for the glaives to open.
Yep, and that is one of these openings is obviously super good, and we can talk about it. We've seen it a lot over the last 4 to 6 months, but it's also one of these builds where you have to be really careful as a Protoss. Don't throw those adepts away too early, because soO is probably going to respond with a lot of roaches and Zerglings. Does he have a roach one? Well, it's kind of shocking that he doesn't have a roach one yet, right? Like, it's 4 minutes into the game. Is he just going to try to defend this with Link Queen? If Trap picks up on this and then gets a very good amount of adepts, right? I'm not talking 6 to 8 adepts, but I'm talking like
6 games.
Yeah, this could be a disaster for soO, because no matter how many links you have, if there is like 14 adepts in your mineral line, you don't fight that. Even with some queen support, most of the time you're not going to fight that. Now we see the Roach Worm, but I have the feeling that he was reading this as a Dark Templar opening, because he's even getting Spore Crawler's body.
Yeah, the Roach Warren is just way too late. We've seen more of defending the first wave with Lings and then the second wave with Roaches. But the roaches are not ready for the second wave, and the fact that Trap went up to 6 gateways means this is way more depth than usual.
Oh my god,
This
you don't
should
fight
be
it.
somewhat unholdable. These Lings are going to run in, but they don't even want the full surround. They know that's just not good, as Trap is going to stay on the low ground. He's going to get some queen kills, so he's going to take that DPS out the game. And now he's going to walk in more depth, Roddy.
Yep, I like it, but I actually would have liked to see that Shade go into the main base. I think that would have been a better fight. You can see that these Adepts did struggle a little bit with the Queens, but in the end it doesn't matter. There are still so many Adepts. There are 6 roaches in production, but those roaches will come from 3 different hatcheries, so they'll be all over the place, and 1 or 2 roaches are absolutely no match with this amount of Adepts. Well, Dario's looking mighty fine in his prediction, because this army is not going to get stopped, and Trap will pick up a very quick and easy game 1. Well, that was 2 things, right? That was Trap doing this with 2 more gateways than we've seen in the past, right? Doing it with 6 rather than with 4 gateways. But we also saw soO have a similar situation to, I think, what soO had against Zest back then on Ephemeron, right? At Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, where it also felt that soO thought this was a Dark Templar opening. And then you see Spore Crawlers go down, and so he's like, surprise, here are the Adepts! And you're like, oh no! I mean, no matter how good you are, Queen Ling against like 20 plus Adepts, nobody wins that.
Yep, roaches were way too late. I think the roaches are way too late if it's just 4 gateways, right? Just didn't make any sense. Almost like you forgot to build the roach roam, because even when you go like spores early like that, like even for DTs, you kind of like having roaches, because then you like having roaches against the Archons.
Yeah, but that comes a bit later, right? Because they often do try with the Dark Templars first, and even if they don't, then you still have to morph the Dark Templars into Archons, and you can also fight that with 4 or 5 Queens. So if this was a DT opening, I think soO would have been fine. Maybe he ends up losing like 10, 12 Zerglings in the process, but they are just Lings. But this was just... this was soO not being ready for Adepts. There's no other way to put it.
Well, Roddy, I mean, it may look good for TLO's first prediction, but didn't TLO also predict that you get your predictions wrong again?
Yeah, well, at least half of them. But the funny thing is, this is a bit tricky, right? Because I can only make 3 initial predictions, actually, because there's only 3 matches today that are guaranteed. And of course, I could have at least one of them wrong, so I couldn't predict the matches after that. But for everybody who's playing the True or False game, that is brought to you by a Secret Lab, of course, over at Team Liquid. My predictions are that Trap wins this one, Innovation beats Elaser. And then Uthermal against Zest, I really went back and forth for a very long time. And I'm like, In the end, I went with Uthermal, but I'm probably wrong again. But then again, I've been predicting against both of them, and they both kept winning. So, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Maybe it's a draw.
We go to like game 9 or something.
Yeah. Like, Roddy, just tell us who wins. I was like, I don't know. Okay.
All right, well, jumping into game number 2. In the bottom right, our blue Zerg is soO.
And of course, in the top left side of Simulacrum, look at the main base of our Korean Protoss, who took up a very quick and easy and nice game 1 victory. It is Trap.
I like that Trap comes in with a plan, right? He's not just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play Glaives every game. He plays Glaives, but then he'll go 6 gateways, and immediately, to set the scene for this series now, soO looks at that game and he's like, oh, he's ready to go kind of super aggressive. And every time this Glaive, soO's always now going to second guess, like, is he going 6 gates again? Is he trying to mind game me? It just puts thoughts in soO's head for the rest of the series. So I really like it being used in game number 1 here by Trap.
Yep. And small things to talk about as well. In game 1, of course, Trap went for that hatch block. He forced soO to expand elsewhere. This game, built his gateway, didn't even scout. So mind games are definitely part of this best of 5 approach for Trap. It's not a big difference, A lot of casual starter players still ask us, like, how much of a difference does this make really? It's not massive, but most of the time your builds are just gonna flow a little nicer. You have room for like a 1 or 2 second error, and it still won't hurt you because you have a few more minerals to work with than you normally do. Now, if he would have been 12 put here, would that have been bad? The answer is yes, very. Or a 14-14. Anything that you face on the North American ladder would have been a disaster here for Trap, but it's not happening, Waddy, so Trap will get away with it.
Yeah, Trap having a very good first 2 minutes of the PVZ, as we do see soO's going to get to the front. You'll see the timings a little bit here, and obviously you'll keep this Overlord out the front to watch, just to see what is being made, and that's typically when that Stalker gets made to push it to the side. I can still keep an eye on Warpgate, and you just see Warpgate start straight away, and that's generally a sign of more Twilight Council build, but hey, in a series that's been full of mind games so far, why not put a Stargate behind it, maybe just to switch it up. It will be the Twilight Council, and it will just be regular and as expected from Trap. Not much.
This is when you go Dark Templars, right? Because he's like, Su's now not going to build any spores. He's like, I need spine crawlers, and that's when the Dark Templars show up. No, this is cool. There's obviously many different ways to open up with DTs as well, if that's actually what you want to go for. But we do see an adept behind this, and then we do see the robotics facility. It could still be both. I wonder what he's actually going to do.
There's been a build lately where you make it look like an adept opener, but you actually go for the Dark Shrine, right? So you don't actually have a way of knowing as the Zerg, and you kind of just have to prepare for both. And initially when Zest started doing that, a lot of people died to DTs because they're just sat on like 20 roaches ready to greet these adepts, and they have 0 detection, which is, again, one of the reasons we've maybe seen SoO building spores in the last game, as there is our Dark Shrine running.
Yep, I think all of it makes sense so far. You know, I know there's not been a great upper bracket final yet, but obviously just in the early stages of game 2. But if you're Trap right now, you're like, this is actually going very nice. Like, everything so far is going according to plan. I got away with everything. Game 1, I barely revealed anything. And if you're SoO, you're still kind of looking for your first little victory, right? Because so far, there has not been a single little victory for SoO in this entire series.
Nope, it's been a very disheartening start for SoO. Definitely not the way he would have liked this to be going. And yeah, you're right? You know, he'd love to catch these DTs and maybe get a kill on a DT or two so they don't get to walk into Archons right away. That would be amazing for him. But for the moment, Roach Roaring, and still currently 0 detection.
Yep, okay, now we are going to get a couple of spore crawlers. There was actually, for quite some time, there were 5 drones on the extractor in the main base of SoO. I don't know if he likes to keep like 1 or 2 safety drones there to morph those into spores, but they were there for quite some time, so I actually think that was just a rally point mistake. SoO is going to make his 20 Zerglings, so he should be fine here. But this obviously means that SoO's economy, this is not going to be a monstrous Zerg economy, right? It's all a little like, okay, you shouldn't take any damage, that's for sure. And it's so important he doesn't lose a Spore Crawler here because there's no lair, but he shouldn't lose. He's got 20 links, he's taking a lot of damage on one of the queens immediately. But SoO is going to be fine for now.
Yeah, he's going to hold this off, doesn't actually lose a queen in the end, doesn't lose any units or anything. Do you see the links coming across? Yeah, they'll get that probe. There's only 1 adept here.
Yeah, this is a really good little catch. He made 20 links, he kept 10 or 12 of them at home, and then grabbed these 8 Zerglings to the other side of the map. Sniping that probe means that Nexus is going to be late, picking off the adept means it's going to be even later. Now you might even be able to pick up a pylon kill on top of that. At the same time, Trap is now kind of looking for a little bit of momentum with his Archon opener. So far, so good for SoO, but I do think it's important to mention that he made a lot of units. He made more units than you'll see most Zerg players make when all of this took place, so he also needed that victory.
Yeah, and it's a victory that's going on for a while because this is still no third phase here from Trap. As you do see Madden on gates, and we'll see how aggressive he wants to end up being. These Archons need to be careful. They go for as much as they can, even getting the extra roach. And oh my goodness,
no, you don't get that.
No. Wow. Forces a transfusion though. That's pretty sick, all things considered. The Lings across the map though actually grabbed a bunch of units. He got all 3 of the sentries that were out.
Oh no. Okay, that's a massive pickup. I didn't even see that. I was so focused on these Archons, because these Archons legit had no shields. 2 Archons with absolutely 0 shields. That's where, you know, Trap really got the most out of his little Archon drop there. There was not a single thing else that he could have possibly picked off. This Nexus has been delayed for a solid 2 minutes, which really goes to show how important those 8 Zerglings were. And then obviously finding the additional sentries, well, that's just the cherry on the cake.
Yeah, because now maybe Trap's like, okay, I had a couple gates for my Nexus, then I can push across the map. But without the sentries, that's obviously something you're nowhere near wanting to do like you would have been before. My goodness, that Archon. Yeah.
How does he do this?
Meant to die.
I would have lost 3 Archons already, even though he only made 2. Like,
these Archons have more lives than cats do, Roddy. It's crazy. They are living life on the edge.
Okay, the thing is as well is that it's very cool that you have low HP Archons, but if SoO decides to attack you soon and you don't have any HP on those Archons, that 8 army supply of yours is basically useless as well, right? Because there's just no way you can keep it on the ground. You remember what I was talking about in the beginning of Nightshade? There are going to be moments where SoO will be attacking you with like 100 army supply and Trap is going to have 46, 48. Well, That's pretty much happening right now, if not even worse. Look at the army supply of soO. It's massive. Sure, there are force fields, but he's going to have to be forced to be making a couple of sentries as well. There are Ravages in the mix. If Trap defends this, he is a monster, and he should just get the trophy, because this seems like a very difficult hold.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. I love this from soO. Going to peel a few units to go up the other ramp, so it's going to maybe force more force fields or just give the better surround straight up. Here we go. He gets straight up both the ramps. I mean, Trap's waiting a long time before using his force fields, falling back to the third base, making use of the shield batteries here. The Archons drop in the back, though, and they're not going to be able to really get into the fight. A couple of DTs here, but there is an overseer, so there is going to be that ticked off the list. Ravager Biles connecting on an Archon in the front, and, well, soO really struggling against the shield batteries, but really looking as though in the end he's going to push through this.
Yeah, there's still 3 Immortals there, but 11 probes have already gone down, so that is great damage, and there is just no answer against the extra links that come in, and perhaps a few too many hit points left on all these Ravagers. At one moment I was like, maybe a few Zealots can save the day here, but I feel even if they do save the day here, did they really? Because Trap really doesn't have that much to work with. Both Archons do go down. These Immortals are truly trying to live up to their name, and they may very well be immortal for now, but 68 supply. I feel like soO still has so many other units on the other side of the map, and it's not like Trap can just casually remake 7 or 8 sentries that he had before.
No, it's tough. You can't really afford much right here. You don't really get a chance to warp much in. You'd love to warp in a few, a few TTs, so maybe like getting some Archons, but you just don't have time for any of it. He warps in 4 more sentries, but third base is already going down. soO is still making units as well, so he's not even going to let this up. No. Zergs, but just make drones and start a transition and be ridiculously far ahead and win 3-4 minutes down the line. So he's like, no, I win here and I win now. That's how much I still have left over and how little he feels like Trap has.
He's asking himself, even if I would transition, what would I really transition to, Waddy? Probably just more roaches and Ravages.
Yeah.
So why would I drop any additional buildings at this point? Evo chambers, well, yeah, maybe, but I prefer to have a few more roaches and Ravages. I gotta say, 2 of these Immortals have truly been alive forever, and they have picked up a whole bunch of kills. There is just no answer against the Zerglings, right? The Zerglings are the most annoying thing here, because there are barely any Zealots. Probes are being pulled as well, and these are not probes at the third, they're in the natural, and that's just something that Trap cannot afford. GG gets called. And I feel like I kind of predicted this game in the beginning of Night Shit, right? Like, you know that games can look like this. It really feels that if Trap's economy was just that little bit better, if he had a few more units to work with, then he could have possibly defended this. But the initial Zerglings that soO made to delay that Nexus, pick up the Adept, pick up the Pylon, I felt that those Zerglings were actually the ones that won him the game. Yeah,
no, the first Lings were really good. It's funny because I feel like a lot of the DT builds now, I mentioned this build where you make it look like the Adept opening, but then it is DTs. This isn't really good because you come across with the 4 Adepts, but then 4 Adepts go home, so you can actually defend like a few Lings that go across the map like that. So it's really nice, I think, for soO realizing he saw, oh, you never actually sent anything, sent any Adepts across the map. You don't actually have any Adepts. And I think that's why he sent those Lings across and made the entirety of the difference, right? Especially when they picked up the sentries afterwards.
Yeah, because that wasn't an insane amount of Zerglings. It wasn't like, wow, soO's doing this with a really bad economy. It's like, no, a relatively normal moment, like 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, he started making those 20 links, kept 10 or 12 of them at home and just grabbed the initial 8, sent those to the other side of the map. And you're right, if that's 2 Adepts or even 3 Adepts standing there, Trap has no issues at all. Like getting that Nexus up, he can like start working on a 3 base economy or at least a 2.5 base economy. He can focus a little more on his Archon drop. That Nexus was supposed to go down like before the 5-minute mark, and now it went down at like almost the 7-minute mark. That's just a massive difference. At this level, that's insane.
Insane indeed. As we get on to game 3, it's going to be Zen for a little bit more craziness, tied up 1-1. 2 relatively quick games so far, taking us to game 3. But hey, at least it's tied up 1-1. This could have been worse. This could have been match point already. So there's always the bright side, the positive side of ways to look at things. As we jump in on Zen to the bottom left-hand side, our blue Zerg from the Afrika Freaks is soO.
Goes on the top right side of Zen. Look at the main base of Trap. In the old days, I would have been like Swarmos, Roddy. Nidus Swarmos. Like Zen really was the dream map for it for quite some time. So many good spots for it. Now, obviously, that strategy is not that popular anymore because Nidus networks are not as powerful. You can't spam them as easily as you used to be able to. But it's still something that if you can maybe keep it hidden, if you are in a decent economic spot as a Zerg. Like, if there is one map where I'd like to see it on, it's still Zen.
Yeah.
Well, or Golden Wall, maybe. Golden Wall is pretty good too. But.
Yeah, Golden Wall's very good for it. Yeah, Zen just has those, and it's the bottom side, right? So in this case, the top side, where you have that base just to the side of the main, and it's very hard to deny it. Now just going up there, and then obviously you can also put one like where the linear fourth base is, and it's just, you've got that ability to fly over the gap into the third base. So yeah, maybe if soO wants to, if there's a Zerg that would do it still as well, I would say like soO, as soO or Rogue, right? Because anything that's like aggressive in the mid game, soO's just like, yeah, actually I love that idea. But maybe an infestation pit is too much tech for soO. Who knows? That's also a good question to ask.
Anything that doesn't require Vipers or Infestors, soO is like, yeah, that actually sounds good. I can beat a Swarm. You're telling me to make a lot of units? I'm good at that, okay? He's like, I've made it to like 5 GSL finals in a row by making a lot of units. It's my comfort zone.
Yeah, you had a lot of practice at it in some very high pressure scenarios as well. So we know he can hit those injects. We know he can make those units. As we wait for Trap's tech choice to be shown to us, we can get a bit of an idea of what's going to happen here. soO, for a moment, looked like this Overlord was going for a deep dive into the main.
I think this could be Stargate opening, right? I think Zen is really good for Stargate. It obviously allows your Oracles to just chill. He's starting Warpgate and Stalker immediately, so maybe Trap is not a believer in the Stargate anymore, but I feel like this may be the best Stargate map, actually, especially if you like to play Oracles. We've seen some of these Stasis traps as well on the high ground, right? Who was that? Who did it in this group?
I can't remember. It was me and you were casting it together, I remember.
Okay, it was really cool. I'd never seen that before. A high ground Stasis trap that still gets triggered by the drones.
Yeah. That was really abusive. Yeah, I can't remember who that was, but it must have been last week as well. As this game will just be Twilight Robo, waiting to see if it's going to be Glaives again or if we're going to go into that Dark Shrine as Trap. I feel like the Pros players have just been kind of alternating, like, Zest especially was just like, first game I had to go Glaives or DTs, and then the next game I always do the opposite, I always do the other thing. So maybe time to go back to Glaives here for Trap.
Yeah, and then in game 3 you go with the strategy that made you win.
Yeah, so that's a good way to adjust as well.
Yeah. Game 1 I went Glaives and I won. Game 2 I went Darkstar and I lost. So, well, duh. Obviously I'm going to go back to Glaives. We often talk about this being a very complex, high-level game. If you break it down like that, Wardy, it's really not that complicated.
We should be in the GSL as well, buddy.
Yeah. TY did give us the right example, right? Apparently you can cast games and still, wow, he's actually doing the exact same thing at game 1, by the way. Once again, going up to 6 gateways. He's really keeping it simple. This is like StarCraft for dummies, how to beat one of the best Zergs in the world.
I kind of love it, though, because maybe not so much necessarily for how it's going to work for Trap, but I just love the fact that at least this time we're going to get to see how it works out against a Rotron of soO that's up in time, and see just how this does play out, how these 6 gateways work, what sort of position it leaves Trap in, and what sort of damage you can do with all of those depths.
And the potential counter, right, from soO. Because if soO doesn't take a devastating amount of damage, just imagine what you can do with like 60 or 70 supply of roaches against somebody that's sitting on 6 gateways and the depths. Like, what do you even do with this? So it's really important that not only does Trap eventually do some damage, but that he makes sure that this takes a very long time. Because the worst thing that could possibly happen is him shading in his adepts, losing his adepts, and then giving an open opportunity for soO to make nothing but units and run to the other side of the map. So damage is a victory, but I think time is an even bigger victory here.
I love that soO's starting up a Spine Crawl against this many adepts. A Spine can go a huge way to helping out, even if it's just a target for a little while. Trap doesn't commit in yet, so soO is buying himself time before these adepts take a fight. Which means more units for soO. Now, Trap isn't really doing much behind this, right? He's still just making adepts. He's still just on 36 probes and 2 gas.
which is actually not that good, I think. I mean, I think that Trap was hoping that soO made a couple of roaches and then would stop building roaches. But this is soO, man. soO does not stop unless you really give him a proper reason to stop. So soO has a lot of additional units on the way. The Ravages did get picked off, but there's still a couple of Queens here. And the Queens are doing a really good job in soaking up a lot of the shots here. Now that Warp Prism is sitting in a very dangerous spot. Trap, you gotta move it. I think it's gonna fall. Oh my god, it's so close. It doesn't fall. Trap is a sicko. But that still wasn't good enough.
Yeah, this was just a trade out with units, and that's not what you're looking for when you slow down your own economy this much to be able to commit to an attack. Because soO's very happy to slow down his economy to deal with this because his counter potential is massive. There's no tech out from Trap, who's already building the next Warp Prism, by the way. Even he's convinced he's going to lose it at this point.
Yeah, the backup Prism. I mean, I really think that Trap was just like, I hope that soO makes a couple of links and then 4 or 5 roaches, and that he then starts droning up again. But soO never droned up. He's just like, no, I have the feeling that you're pretty serious about it. This time the Adepts do make it all the way into the main base, but there are roaches here as well. There are Queens, so these Adepts are in a lot of trouble, and now finally a lair does start. I think the majority of these Adepts will go down. Maybe one survives, and this isn't good for Trap at all.
No, this is real rough. These Adept shade back out over here where the Lings can get us around already. The Roaches on creep so they can get in range to chase for a bit more damage. I mean, at least the Prism shows up to save not even 4 of them, just the 3. But yeah, we are in counterattack territory potentially from soO, but he will go into the lair initially.
Yeah, I think it's because...
runs.
Yeah, I think it's because he saw that Trap is still on 2 bases, right? And he's just like, well, I don't really need to run to the other side of the map right now, because what if then a couple of Adepts do show up in one of my mineral lines? So I think that's smart, but the moment that Trap truly wants to expand, I think soO will be right there to be annoying, to deny it. Trap is going to try to get done whatever he possibly can get done, but this is still that low HP Prism as well. I gotta say, soO handled that really well. soO did not fall for the Trap. That's not even on purpose, Waddy, I promise, but... I really think that Trap was hoping he would just transition, and soO's like, no, you're serious about this, and if you're serious, mate, I'm serious.
Yeah. And it's just crazy that he did this a second time in the same series, right? It's the sort of thing where I feel like if soO sees this for the first time, maybe he does transition a bit, or at least make a few extra drones.
Yeah.
But he just sees it like second time, it's like, well, I've seen this before. And so I just know I'm just going to unit lots of them. And,
he probably took a look at what Trap had as well, right? At the end of Nightshade, you know, when pro gamers leave, they always take a quick look at what Trap was actually doing behind this, and he's like, wow, you weren't even building up Immortals, you didn't even take any additional gases, you were all-inning me, and okay, I wasn't ready, and I would have probably like died anyway, even against less Adepts, but you are pretty much all-inning me there. So I think that soO took a look at that, and he just read this game as the exact same scenario as Nightshade, and he was spot on. One of the Immortals is trapped there, by the way, as well. Very unfortunate SimCity for Trap. I mean, does Trap try to make a 2-base attack with like Adept Immortal? Do you get a couple of sentries in the mix then as well? Or it's just pure Immortal Adept, Waddy? That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, who's doing the right thing is that when one of the Prisms on the left side does go down now, it's the right... soO's doing the right thing, right? He's added on drones, he got to a comfortable number, and now he's just been massing units again. He's about to have roach speed off that lair, which helps him to engage this. Across the board, what is going well for Trap? Nothing. He started a 3rd Nexus. Even that's not good. I'm not convinced. A Robobait too.
I love
that's
this.
How bad it is. Yeah.
I love this, by the way. This Overseer. It's just like, nice army you got there, mate. It would be a shame if literally nothing shoots up. And that's the devastating feeling as a Protoss player. If you're trying to like hit some sort of a timing, some sort of an attack, hoping that your opponent is not going to be ready for, you've got 0 NTR in your army, and there's an Overseer on top of it. You're like, well, I guess I got caught with my hand in the cookie jar over here. It's like, he knows what I'm up to. Robobait then, I guess, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it just because it's the sort of like, it felt like he was ready to commit to something. This is just him realizing it was never going to work. So now he's maybe going to try and like get a Disruptor up or so to try and turn the tide of this fight. But he's like, yeah, I'm not going to give you very much time because I'm set up to fight, so I'm going to come across and find this fight without any force fields here or anything. This should be very one-sided. I mean, even the Prism's not here initially to protect these first 2 Immortals.
Yeah, I think with 1 or 2 batteries, I'd be like, well, maybe with some cool Warp Prism Micro, but there are no batteries. The Warp Prism Micro will not even come into play, and just like that, soO takes a 2-1 lead. And I think we pretty much said everything about this game that we could possibly say about it already. Man, what a momentum switch. After that first game, I was like, that's gotta feel so good. And Trap is able to kind of hide his build as well in game 2. And you feel like there is some potential for it. And then 8 Zerglings show up in game 2, pick off his probe. And I felt like from that point, everything started to fall apart for Trap.
Yeah, just feels like soO really got caught off guard in game 1. But now he's like, yeah, I was the better player all along here. Just looking great. It goes back as well, right? You're right. Like, the first couple minutes of game 2 as well all looked good for Trap. And, it felt like soO didn't really find a victory. But the moment he had those lings that canceled that third base one time, stopped it from coming up, it feels like since then, this series has been all about soO.
No, he's looking rock solid in his defense. And, once again, I feel most of the time, soO is not a guy you trick. Because, like, if I think of some of my own games or if I watch other people play, there are certain players that you shouldn't really try to trick by, like, I want him to make some units, but then go back into droning. Like, I feel like soO is always going to make units. And then he will apply very basic logic, probably what he saw that happened to him in game 1. And of course, he's got vision of the third base with his Overlord. He's got a Zergling outside of the natural of Trap as well. So unless Trap would like magically have a hidden base, and Twitch chat loves to talk about hidden bases, but you don't see them very often on this level, like soO's is like, no, I will refuse to make another drone until I'm convinced that you are taking extra gases, until I'm convinced that you're tacking up. And Trap is like, no, man, you should really do it right now. Like, any moment now, like, you've got 5 roaches. That's more than enough. Let's work on your economy soon. He's just like, nope. I'm willing to go up to 60, 70 army supply of 38 drones, which feels really uncomfortable for a Zerg. But in this case, was absolutely the correct call. Just very well done.
Yeah, it was... I mean, if you ever talk about a hard counter, this was the definition of it, right? Just everything right. Trap. I mean, did Trap even he killed 2 drones at one point? It's like we see people killing more than 2 drones with 2 adepts when they don't even go glaive. So, bit of a wild one in general. Is Trap hurting a little bit? We're going into Eternal Empire, which is, I feel like, the one map which soO will struggle a bit more on to play how he likes to play, which is aggressively and getting across. Of course, there's still potential to counterattack aggressively if Trap loses too much, but it is easier to hold 3 bases here. Maybe this is where Trap gets into that more comfortable, macro-focused game.
Yeah, where are the storms, mate? Where are our storms, our disruptors? Like, I want to see people complain about some splash damage over here, I'm not here to watch roaches beat up on adepts. We all know that that's going to happen. I do want to point out one more last thing, because you said it as well, like he lost 2 drones at one point. I gotta say as well, to soO's credit, I never saw an opportunity for Trap to kill drones. There are some moments where sometimes you see games unfold like this, and you're like, oh, I wanted him to finish up that shade, or he should have cancelled the shade there and then jump on the queens. To soO's credit, there was never a real opportunity for Trap to actually get that economic damage done. And those are the things that are really hard to put in words, what he did right. Is it unit positioning? Is it the amount of units he made? It's like a little bit of everything, but soO just made sure there was nothing to gain there for Trap.
Well, on the top right-hand side, we do have him on match point. The blue Zerg player is soO.
Yay!
Dario is smiling. I'm hurting. In the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of our Protoss. He's down 1-2. It is Trap.
Yay!
But if there's ever a map to turn it around in terms of game times, it's Eternal Empire.
No, I'm with you. I feel like this is indeed a very tricky map to just attack with roaches. Like, that shouldn't normally ever be good. Then again, soO just has more roaches than anybody else. In the early days when StarCraft 2 came out, people were like, wow, the macro, like, he's just got more units. I'm like, how hard can it really be? There's no action on the map, like nothing really is happening. Why would people make mistakes? But I don't know. I sometimes genuinely feel that soO knows a couple of things about early and mid-game economies that other people's don't. Or he just plays greedy and he just doesn't give a damn about anything that he shouldn't give a damn about. But if you tell him, make roaches, geez, this man will actually have more roaches than any other Zerg out there. He's really good at that. It's one-dimensional, but he's incredibly good at it.
Don't need more dimensions if it works, Roddy.
I feel like soO's got these little stickers on his screen where if you select a drone and it could drop an infestation pit, it's just he's got a little duct tape on it. He's like, don't go there. It's bad.
He's just got all these notes of things that haven't worked in the past, and now it is just roaches and ravages. Plus one missiles is like a 50-50. It's like, yeah, sometimes, but
Take a
that's
chance.
about your limit. Trying to see what Trap wants to do. I mean, Excel is the map where a lot of the players have enjoyed playing Glaives, but of course it's a map where really anything goes. Stargate can work here. I mean, you can obviously see a Dark Shrine as well, so a lot of options there. It is going to be an Adept first, which I think is the first time we've seen an Adept first this game for the series.
I mean, I wouldn't mind Glaives again, but then please do the 4 gateways, right?
Yeah, for sure.
4 gateways, just try to force out some units. If you can get some damage done, awesome. If not, just keep him alive and go up to 3 bases. Because so far, Trap is actually playing soO's kind of game. Like, soO does not like to tackle armies that consist of Storm, maybe even Colossus or Disruptors, but basically the higher tech, higher HP armies where you normally need a very good engagement or you need some spellcasters. Basically anything that cannot make their way through, like 5-6 Immortals and all those Archons and the splash damage. But we didn't get there, not even once so far in this best of 5. And that is obviously always going to favor somebody like soO, who is the king of basic units. That's just what he is.
Yeah. It's been a soO kind of series so far. It's just as simple as that. The score reflects it, the way the last couple of games have gone especially have reflected that. That's why I'd like to see Trap going for something that gives him a chance to get into those later stages. 4 gates of Glaives and, transition behind it, get the 3rd base down, really make, some opportunity for yourself to follow up. Is see how soO's going to look to defend this very soon, right? Because this would be around the time you build the Roach Run if you want, like, faster roaches. So let's see how kind of Ling heavy he's going to go initially.
Yep, and this suddenly becomes a super big game, right? I mean, it's upper bracket final. If soO takes this map, he's guaranteed top 2 of TSL 5. And I think that's already a pretty damn impressive achievement. I would have never predicted him to make top 2. And maybe that's silly, because he is somebody who's made an insane amount of finals in his career, but with all the players we had in this tournament and the way that soO has been looking over the last 4 to 5 months, like, if he would have told me soO's going to make top 6 in this tournament, I'd be like, yeah. Top 4, I'd be like, well, that'd be a good performance, but possible. Top 2, I would have been like, no, like, I just don't see that happen. But here we are, Vardy. He's now 1 map away from securing his spot in the grand finals of this entire tournament. And so far, things are going a little more in the direction that you and I both were wishing for, so that makes me feel good, Vardy. It's almost like we're onto something, Take some extra gases. Don't all in the guy who's going to have 1 million units anyway.
soO is supply block, though, just as he wants to build roaches, and this is a horrible supply block because it's at the worst possible time. He should have roaches in production as we're speaking. And instead, the next round of Adepts are going to warp in, and if this amount of Lings has to fight that amount of Adepts, that's going to be tricky. He's going to go for the Prism, and the Adept warping cancels, and that's huge for soO because suddenly he doesn't have to fight those extra 4 Adepts where they get to a critical mass, and what a game-changing moment that might have just been.
Yeah, that was massive. On the other hand, soO did obviously have an insane amount of Queens and Lings already, and I think he would have been okay in the end. But this turned into something like that should have been okay-ish to suddenly really good, because Trap was forced to cancel. Now he's got permanent damage on his War Prism as well. The most important thing here for Trap, though, is just like, don't get too carried away. Keep that Prism out on the map. Keep some Adepts there, so soO cannot just run to the other side of the map and just go up to 3 bases like we see him do at this point.
Yeah, I like that he had a few Adepts at home just to make sure he gets the 3rd up, just in case after this there is Lings that arrive across the map. This is still looking pretty good for soO. I mean, the Adepts coming over. Trap's being sensible, though, right? He's starting up an Immortal or so. He's looking to the future. I would like to see some more signs of, like, a Forge or something, and there we do have a Forge going down. And that should be Trap just really looking for a transition while still poking with these Adepts, looking for a bit more damage, maybe Warp Prism in the main base, the other Adept Shade to the 3rd. There's still potential to deal damage if you can outposition soO here.
Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to. Like, I really think it comes down to more where soO has his units than Trap if he really wants to commit. But he is going to warp in even more Adepts. Is he now going to shade into the natural as well? And then he can obviously always cancel that. At the same time, the Adepts are coming in on the left side, and that's just Queens. So the fight at the 3rd base should actually go really well here for Trap, because those are just Queens and they should run out of energy eventually. But soO did a great job in keeping them alive. 11 drones already going down, though. That's actually quite a few. Jesus. A lot of them going down in the natural.
Yeah, but now you're losing a lot of Adepts, so how afraid are you of a counterattack here? because soO still has a lot of units up. He's about to have roach speed to go across the map. 20 work is absolutely a lot, and apparently soO's not going to get too aggressive. He starts +1 missiles as well.
This
But
is
really good damage from Trap as he gets even more damage done. A couple of extra kills, another pull, even going to shade down to the natural again.
where he shaded right on top of 17 roaches, guys, and he got nothing done. But no, you're right. I still love that, though, because those two adapts, they are not expensive in this phase in the game, but it still keeps soO at home, because we all know what happens when you ignore two adapts in a main base for even just 7 or 8 seconds. Like, you're gonna lose a drone per second, pretty much. They fire so quick with resonating glaives. At this point, soO feels like he should run to the other side of the map. But now everything that we mentioned before comes into play. Eternal is a little bit easier to defend than most other maps, and there are still adapts keeping soO busy on his side of the map. He's got 2 random adapts getting 4-5 kills, and it dragged all of the units of soO home one more time. I love this for Trap. Like, I know that supply, you can be like, it's bad, but he shouldn't mess up here, and I think he's in a good position. Just keep your Immortals alive, and preferably keep your Sentries alive. Uh-oh.
Well, the force fields were a little slow, but he does have the shield batteries here, and the roaches eventually were stopped from coming through. And of course, Trap, soO doesn't have all of his units here right away. He didn't have any Ravagers here to break those force fields down. I mean, a lot more shield batteries on the way up. The second that those all finish, the second I really believe that this is completely fine for Trap. Still looks good in general. The Warp Prism is back as well, which gives you that extra micro on the Immortals, and that was obviously missing initially, which made it look that little bit scarier.
The only sad thing is we don't have charge here, and I feel like the option of warping in 5 or 6 Zealots to then get those on top of the Ravagers would be amazing to have right now if you're Trap. He doesn't have that. The Prism is a bit AFK. Now the Zerglings come in. They can really complicate things. These shield batteries really need to save the day here, because that's still a lot of Ravagers. We've got a lot of Corrosive Vials going down in the middle of these shield batteries as well. But so far, I think so good for Trap, as soO is starting to run a little low on units. And that's obviously always a good sign for Trap, because he is trying to transition. He is trying to get a better army. He's got that +1 on the way. Whew, not an easy hold, Wardy, but he does get the job done in the end. He's down 9 workers, but that's a place that most Protoss players would be okay with if you tell them they can also have 6 Immortals. Is that 5? I can't count. 6. That's 6, right? No, it's 5. Damn it. It's 6. I'm blind. Sorry, mate.
All good. Oh no, Roddy, he's building an infestation pit. It's time to get out of his comfort zone, apparently. I mean, throughout this, soO has kept something of an eco advantage. There was that, adept kind of timing where the adepts came in, and that obviously gave Trap a bit of a lead. But outside of that, that's like the only thing I really have going for soO in my mind. Nice attempt.
That would have been cool.
Really nice try, attempt 2. Ooh, now if they're actually in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like maybe Trap wasn't looking there. Trap is going to try to just be annoying with a couple of adepts in this Warp Prism. During all of this, soO did throw down a Spire, so we're starting to have a pretty good idea of what he's going high for. And that's not +3 Mulus, guys. He wants to get some Brood Lords out eventually, and Brood Lords are obviously amazing against Archons and Immortals, but you also need to be able to protect them. Do you think Trap is going to go for some... Okay, he already has Blink. Damn. Okay, that one. He went Blink before Charge. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, he went Blink for the follow-up of the initial Adept. So he did have Blink during that attack. He just never really had, as the Prism goes down, he just never really had enough Stalkers to like really blink forward until at the very end he blinked and got like a couple of Ravages or so.
Yeah, near the ramp. As these Zerglings get a full surround on the Nexus, it seems like soO really wants to go for it. A couple of force fields could save the day here, and that is exactly what's going to happen. I love how Trap waited as well. He's like, no, you should really believe that you're going to get it. And if I truly need to, I will drop the force fields in the end, but I'll make sure I'll pick off every single Zergling there. I gotta say, though, soO is already quite rich, right? I guess you are rich if you barely get any upgrades and you don't really make too many Banelings. You've only made Roaches so far. It's pretty insane to see him going into Broodlords of 180 supply, while getting a great Aspire and still having a pretty decent army. I gotta say, I did not expect him to have this much money in the bank.
Yeah, no, he had, like I say, like the one thing he had was like something of an economy over Trap, because Trap's work account's never been amazing, because he has been kind of making sure he had a lot of shield batteries and so on. This is weird. This army on the left side, if that got caught on its own, that would be really bad, especially with a few Banes here to take down the Zealots. And it might still end up being caught. Oh, it just turned away again. I don't think he does. I think he's completely blind to it.
I have the feeling he didn't see it either. Obviously, that army would not really stand a chance against all the Ravages and the Banelings, so I think Trap kind of dodged the bullet there, and this is going to be super awkward for soO, because it's suddenly going to be like, whoa, where did all those units come from? He is actually kind of giving soO enough time to get back, though.
He runs it back into soO's army, actually.
Yep, it's a bit unfortunate. We've got a little circling counterattack as well, but that's happening at the base with a million shield battery, so obviously no probes are going down. The Archons are eventually going to get picked off there. I mean, I feel like at this point, it all comes down to the magical Broodlord push, right? Like, Archons are cool. +2 is done for the Stalkers. So obviously, there's a lot of Storm available. So I think if the Storms are good, and you kind of make some room, you make some space for the Stalkers, I think that Trap's army should be better. But this all comes down to execution, right? If Banelings connect with the High Templars, this can also turn into a disaster.
Yes, this is completely going to come down to the fight. We do see some Zealots going to run their way up towards the natural, but soO already has some units in position over on that right side. So this is a big catch, because now he doesn't have to worry about this. He can focus on this fight himself. And that's exactly what he'll get to do. As the first Storm comes down on the first few lings, the Banes not going to find any real connections here. A couple of mortal shots, but that's about it. I mean, Trap will be pushed back, but that's great for soO to start off here. And he's even catching a couple of mortals on the tail end. He's still chasing this down.
And I don't mind it at all, actually. A couple of Banelings do connect with 1 or 2 High Templars. Like, if I'm Trap, I start getting very worried now. He's got no gas in the bank. He's trying to get extra Stargates up. More Banelings trying to connect with these High Templars, and they somehow succeed. This game could actually just end with this push. Look at how the amazing position of all the Broodlords GG gets called. And just like that. No spellcasters were needed, but Broodlords were more than welcome there for soO. As he looked at that army of Archons, Immortals, and Storm, he's like, Roaches are not going to cut it anymore, Ravages are not going to cut it, but Broodlords will, and I gotta say, that was just an absolute perfect 30 or 40 seconds, right, for soO. The Zealot counterattack, that could be a devastating Zealot counterattack if you only have a couple Zerglings there or a couple Banes. But no, he's got a force field of Roaches just standing there taking absolutely 0 damage. And he doesn't even need to look at it because the Roaches are going to win that fight anyway. So that allowed him to get an absolutely perfect fight with his Broodlords coming in from above the high ground where the rich Vespian gas was. And they start raining down on that Archon Immortal army. As soon as the first few Broodlings are on the ground, suddenly things become pretty dicey for Trap there. And yeah, some people might be like, why didn't he recall? I'm kind of with you on that one. But maybe Trap felt that he needed to buy some more time for Stargate. But I would almost say, like, don't go Stargates immediately. Try to get a proper army with the Stalkers first. And then go Stargates, right? Rather than trying to not build anything, have a lot of money in the bank, but then lose all your units one by one against those Broodlords and Banelings.
Just felt like the Storms never really, like, he just had so many waves of like 5, 6, 7 Banes. It ate up so many Storms, and then you actually have no way to really push the Broodlords back. So while the Broodlords are slow, they get that kind of like cut across the corner.
Yep.
Army gets caught. I wasn't quite expecting Trap to leave like in that exact moment, but yeah, it was a magical 30 seconds, and soO takes it 3-1, goes through to the grand final. $4,000, Roddy, guaranteed for this event, and of course, a chance to double that up tomorrow in the grand finals when we get there.
We stand as one. Are you